you are well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today, we'll be doing our grade 8 lesson on, we'll be doing our grade 8 lesson on verbals, right? So, we'll be doing our grade 8 lesson on verbals. And before we start with our grade 8 lesson on verbals, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once we've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of language arts. And then grade 8. Once we've selected the subject of language arts, grade 8, and then we're going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter of verbals. And we're going to basically find out what verbals are, right? All right, so our chapter is verbals. The subject is English language arts, grade 8. And the lessons that we're going to be focusing on under the chapter of verbals, it's to identify participles and what they modify, as well as to identify gerunds and their functions. That is going to be our lessons that we're going to be focusing on today under our chapter verbals, grade 8, English language arts. And we are doing our tutorial lesson on aplusstudents.ca. All right. So we're going to start with if we were to identify participles and what they modify, right? So a participle is a verb. So participle is a verb form that sometimes acts as an adjective. Remember, an adjective, it either tells us about the noun or it modifies a noun. So in this case, a participle is a verb form that sometimes acts as an adjective, right? So we have present participle, right? And present participles, they always end in ing, right? So present participle, they always end in ing. And then we have past participles, right? And past participles are usually the same as the past tense form of the verb, but some, such as broken, taken, seen, grown, and done, are irregular, right? And a participle phrase, it consists of a participle and all its modifiers. So once again, a participle is a verb form that acts that acts as an adjective. And then we have the present participle that always ends in ing. The past participle that are usually the same as the past tense form of the verb, right? And I assume it is more like of the regular past tense verb. But some of the verbs, right, or the past tense verbs, such as broken, taken, seen, grown, and done, are irregular, right? Because remember, with irregular verbs or irregular past tense verbs, we don't just follow any specific rules, right? There's no rule that says we must add ed. There's no rule that says we must just add a d, right? So you're just basically going to have to know that irregular verb. And then a participle phrase, it consists of a participle and all its modifiers. And we're basically going to find out what that specifically means. All right, if we look at a few examples, right? It says, that stunning bouquet of tulips was a gift from Olivia. So that stunning bouquet of tulips was a gift from Olivia. So if we were to identify the, let's say basically our participle within that sentence, right? Then it says that the participle acts as an adjective modifying the noun bouquet, right? If it modifies the noun bouquet, then it means that it will be stunning, right? So it will be the stunning bouquet of tulips was a gift from Olivia, because it modifies the noun bouquet. Filled to capacity, the bus had no room for additional riders. So filled to capacity, the bus had no room for additional riders, meaning the bus was packed, right? So it has filled to capacity. And that is what is modifying the noun, the bus, right? It says filled to capacity, the bus had no room for additional riders. And remember, we said a participle is a verb form that sometimes acts as an adjective. It's not an adjective, it acts as an adjective and it modifies the noun, right? Then we go on to a gerund, right? That is, we're also going to identify gerunds as well as their functions. And a gerund is a verb form that acts as a noun. So a gerund is a verb form that acts as a noun and it ends in ing. So basically a gerund, it acts as a verb. And in this case where it says a participle is a verb. So participle is a verb that sometimes acts as an adjective. And the present participle, it always ends in ing, right? So which means that the past participle is a verb form that sometimes acts as an adjective and ends in ing. And in this case, it says a gerund is a verb form that acts again as a noun. It acts as a noun, not an adjective like a participle, and it ends in ing. And a gerund is often the subject of a sentence. So it's often a subject of sentence. It's the whatever we are discussing, right? It's whatever the sentence is about or talking about. So gerund is often the subject of a sentence or clause, an object of a verb, or an object of a preposition. And a gerund phrase, it consists of a gerund and all its modifiers, right? And if we look at an example, right? Swimming is one of my favorite ways to get exercise. And basically, swimming, right, is our gerund. Swimming is our gerund because here it acts basically as the subject, or it's often the subject of the sentence. And remember, we said a gerund is a verb form that acts as a noun and it ends in ing. So over here, it acts as a noun, it is a verb form, and it ends in ing. And also, it is here, over here, it's basically acting as a subject. So, swimming is one of my favorite ways to get exercise. And over here, we see that the gerund is the subject of the sentence. Peter enjoys cooking for his family and friends. So, Peter enjoys cooking for his family and his friends, right? They don't say that it is always a subject, they say it's often a subject of a sentence, right? But in this case, we have cooking as our gerund, right? It's a verb form, but it acts sometimes as a noun. So cooking. So it ends in ing. So in this case, it is now the object of the verb enjoys. So what does he enjoy? Cooking, right? Cooking is what he enjoys. And after staying up all night, after staying up all night, Tessa felt completely exhausted. So after staying up all night, Tessa felt completely exhausted. And staying is our gerund, and it is the preposition after. The gerund phrase is the object of the preposition after, right? So here's our preposition after, and our gerund is staying. Remember, we said that a gerund is a verb form that acts as a noun and it ends in ing, right? And a gerund is often the subject of a sentence, like in the case of swimming, is one of my favorite ways to get exercise, right? It can be an object of a verb, right? Or it can be an object of a preposition. Staying, cooking, right? So basically, when it comes to a gerund as well as a, let me do this. When it comes to a gerund as well as a participle, right? A participle is a verb form that sometimes acts as an adjective, whereas a gerund is a verb form that acts as a noun but ends in ing, whereas a present participle also always end in ing. All right, so now we're going on to our tutorial lesson on aplusstudents.ca. And we're going to identify participles and what they modify. All right, so now we need to select the participle or the participial phrase. In the late 1800s, right, companies in the US and Europe manufactured early calculating machines which eased the workload of payroll clerks, engineers, scientists, and government workers. Within this sentence, right, we need to select either the participle or the participle phrase. And remember, we say that it ends in ing. So in the late 1800s, companies in the US and Europe manufactured early calculating machines, which eased the workload of payroll clerks, engineers, scientists, and government workers. And if we were to select the either participle or participle phrase, we would select calculating, right? They manufactured early calculating machines. Calculating is our participle. And remember, we said it ends in ing. And a participle is a verb form, right? That sometimes acts as an adjective, which means that it kind of modifies the noun if it acts as an adjective, right, within the sentence. So as much as it's a verb form, but it sometimes acts as an adjective. And an adjective, it modifies a noun. So which means in this case, it also modifies the noun. So machines are the noun or is the noun. And calculating, it basically modifies, it acts as an adjective, modifying the machines, which is the noun. So once again, a participle is a verb form that sometimes acts as an adjective. And present participles, it always ends in ing, right? Like we did with calculating. And then past participles are usually the same as the past tense form of the verb. Right? And we said in our activity, that calculating is our present participle and it acts as an adjective. Over here, it acts as an adjective, modifying the noun, which is machines. Right? Marky recommended a website that features breaking news and in-depth coverage of national and international politics. So Marky recommended a website that features breaking news and in-depth coverage of national and international politics. we need to select either, we need to select the part of the sentence that the participle modifies. And if we select the part of the sentence that the noun, let's say that the participle modifies, then we can select breaking, right? So breaking news, right? And this, of course, again acts as an adjective, right? Modifying the noun, which is news. So what type of news? Breaking news, right? So Marky recommended a website that features breaking news and in-depth coverage of national and international politics. Which means that breaking is the part of the sentence that part of the sentence that the participle modifies. So breaking it is. Yes, and breaking modifies the noun, which is news, right? Because we say that breaking, it basically acts as an adjective, right? And an adjective, it usually modifies the noun, and in this case, it is news. We need to select the participle or the participial phrase. Complementary colors are colors that appear on opposite sides of the color wheel, shown together in an image. They provide the greatest visual contrast. So we need to select either the participle or the participle phrase, right? So complementary colors are colors that appear on opposite sides of the color wheel, shown together in in an image. They provide the greatest visual contrast. And remember, we said that a participle phrase, right, it acts as an adjective, right, that modifies a noun. So a participle phrase consists of a participle and all its modifiers, which means that we are going to select together in an image, right? And that is a participle phrase, together in an image. So it's shown together in an image. So they provide the greatest visual contrast. So together in an image is the participle phrase. And yet even says that the participle phrase is shown together in an image or shown together in an image. And it contains an irregular verb, a regular participle, past participle shown, and acts as an adjective. So shown together in an image, but together in an image. All right. So that is basically us identifying participles and what they modify, right? And we said a participle is a verb form that sometimes acts as an adjective, right? Remember, it is not necessarily an adjective, it just acts as an adjective. And remember, we said that an adjective, it either tells us about the noun or it modifies the noun. So in this case, if a participle is a verb, right, a verb form that sometimes acts as an adjective, then it means that it modifies the noun, right? And the present participle, it always ends in ing. Then we also have past participles, right, that are usually the same as the past tense form of the verb. But some, right, are irregular. Remember, irregular, we said that there's no rule that it follows. You're just going to have to know it. It's like the wording changes. There's no ed that we either add or d that we add in order to show the tense. And then we have a participle phrase that consists of a participle and all its modifiers. Modifiers is basically the nouns that they modify. All right, so now we're going on to our test. We need to select the part of the sentence that the participle modifies. Marky recommended a website that features breaking news and in-depth coverage of national and international politics. And if we were to select our participle, right? And then we will say it is breaking. Because breaking, it modifies the noun, which is news. So breaking, because it modifies the noun, which is news, right? And breaking is also a present participle that ends in ing. So breaking is correct. All right. In the late 1800s, companies in the US and Europe manufactured early calculating machines which eased the workload of payroll clerks, engineers, scientists, and government workers. What do you think is the participle within this sentence? Is it eased or calculating? Eased or calculating? That modifies, let's say, the noun. And if we select our participle, right? And then we will select calculating because it modifies the noun, which is machines. And calculating is correct. The second one is correct. Well done. We need to select the participle or participle phrase. Complementary colors are colors that appear on opposite sides of the color wheel. So it appears on the opposite side of the color wheels. Shown together in an image, they provide the greatest visual contrast. We need to select our participle or participle phrase within our sentence, either together in an image or visual contrast. So is it together in an image or visual contrast? So if we select the correct one, right, then we will choose together in an image. Because it basically, there we have the irregular verb, which is shown, right, with our participle, which is together in an image, or shown together in an image. So the first one is correct. Well done. All right, so now we're going on to the second one, which is the second lesson, which is identifying gerunds and their functions. And a gerund is a verb, right? That forms a verb form, sorry. A gerund is a verb form that acts as a noun. So it's a verb form that acts as a noun and it ends in ing. So it's not necessarily a noun, but it acts as a noun. And it ends in ing. And a gerund is often the subject of a sentence or a clause or an object of a verb or an object of a preposition. And a gerund phrase consists of a gerund and all its modifiers. And if we look at a few examples, sorry, I'd say swimming is one of my favorite ways to get exercise. So swimming is one of my favorite ways to get exercise, right? Which means that within the sentence, the subject is swimming. So what is your favorite ways to get exercise? Swimming. So swimming, it basically acts as the subject. So in this case, the gerund is the subject, which is swimming. That also ends in ing. Then Peter enjoys cooking for his family and friends, right? And the gerund phrase is the object of the verb enjoys. And then after staying up late, Tessa felt completely exhausted. And staying is our gerund because after is a preposition. So the gerund phrase is the object of the preposition after, right? And remember, we said our gerund ends in ing. So now we need to select the gerund or the gerund phrase within the sentence, right? When you know the length of the base and the height, calculating the area is of a triangle is easy. So when you know the length of the base and the height, then calculating the area of a triangle is easy. So we either need to select the gerund or the gerund phrase. So which means that our gerund will be calculating, right? So our gerund will be calculating, and if we were to select the phrase, the gerund phrase, then it will probably be calculating the area of a triangle. But definitely calculating is our gerund. And the gerund phrase is calculating the area. So it's the phrase, not just the gerund, right? So it contains the gerund, which is calculating, and it acts as a noun. So it's calculating the area of a triangle. Before signing with the Brooklyn Dodgers, Jackie Robinson played football for a semi-professional team in Hawaii. So before signing with Brooklyn Dodgers, Jackie Robinson played football for a semi-professional team in Hawaii. So we need to select the gerund or the gerund phrase, right? So which means that we will say not before, but signing with the Brooklyn Dodgers. So signing with the Brooklyn Dodgers, over here, it basically acts as a noun, right? So signing with the Brooklyn Dodgers, Jackie Robinson played football for a semi-professional team in Hawaii. So signing with the Brooklyn Dodgers, and that is our gerund phrase. And here it even says it's a gerund phrase, which is signing with the Brooklyn Dodgers, and it contains the gerund signing, and it acts as a noun. In 1993, to meet demand for better fuel economy, the automobile company Toyota began developing the hybrid car now known as the, is it Prius or Prius? So in 1993, to meet demands for better fuel economy, the automobile company Toyota began developing the hybrid car, now known as the Prius. And if we were to select the gerund or the gerund phrase, then we would say developing the hybrid car, now known as the Prius. So developing, right? So he began developing. And the gerund starts with developing, ending in ing, the hybrid car now known as the Prius. And here it says it's a gerund phrase, which is developing the hybrid car now known as the Prius. And it contains the gerund, which is developing, which also ends in ing, and it acts as a noun. All right, so now we're going on to our test on identifying gerunds and its functions. After the budget crisis, the city of Norwood stopped funding the construction of bike lanes and crossroads. So we now need to either identify the gerund and its functions, or just identify the gerund or the gerund phrase. Is it after the budget crisis or funding the construction of bike lanes and crossroads? So which one is the correct one? After the budget crisis or funding the construction of bike lanes and crossroads. Remember, our gerund is funding, that acts as a noun. So we'll choose funding the construction of bike lanes and crossroads. Number two. And number two is correct because funding is our gerund. So well done. What is the grammatical function of the gerund phrase? After the budget crisis, the city of Norwood stopped funding the construction of bike lanes and crossroad. So funding the construction of bike lanes and crossroads. Is that a subject, an object of the verb, or an object of the preposition? Look at the word that is in front of the word funding. So is it a subject, object of a verb, or object of a preposition? All right, so if we look at our word stopped, right, which is a verb, then we can say that funding, which is our gerund, is the object of a verb. And that is correct. Well done. It is the object of a verb. We need to select the gerund and the gerund phrase. So before signing with the Brooklyn Dodgers, Jackie Robertson played football for a semi-professional team in Hawaii. We need to select the gerund or the gerund phrase within this sentence. Is it signing with Brooklyn Dodgers or Jackie Robertson played football? So signing with Brooklyn Dodgers or Jackie Robertson played football. And if we were to select the correct one, we would say signing with the Brooklyn Dodgers. So signing being our gerund. So well done. Signing with the Brooklyn Dodgers is correct. So now, if we look at our previous answer on signing with the Brooklyn Dodgers, we need to say what is the grammatical function of the gerund phrase? Is it a subject, object of the verb, or object of a preposition? So before signing with the Brooklyn Dodgers, Jackie Robertson played football for a semi-professional team in Hawaii. And if our gerund is signing, right? If our gerund is signing, then that is the object of preposition, which is before. And number three is correct. So well done. Well done. All right, let's do the last one. So we need to select the gerund or the gerund phrase. When you know the length of the base and the height, calculating the area of a triangle is easy. So is it base and height or calculating the area of a triangle? So is it base and height or calculating the area of a triangle? And if we select the correct one, then yes, we can say calculating the area of a triangle because calculating is it's our gerund, right? All right, so now calculating the area of a triangle is easy, right? For calculating a triangle, right? We need to say what is the grammatical function of the gerund phrase. Is it the object of the verb, the subject, or object of a preposition? So when you know the length of a base and the height, calculating the area of a triangle is easy. So calculating is our gerund, which acts, let's see, as a subject. So well done, that is correct. It acts as the subject. All right, so that is now the end of our lesson on verbals, right? And we spoke about identifying participles and what they modify. And the participle, it basically acts as an adjective that modifies the noun, right? And remember, adjectives, they basically tell us about nouns, modifies a noun, right? And then we had to identify gerunds, right? And their functions. So gerunds, it ends in ing. Gerunds can either act as a subject or basically an object of a verb or an object of a preposition, right? All right, so this is now the end of our lesson on verbals. Thank you very much for interacting, and I really hope you're going to have a good day further. Goodbye.